Has it been 2 meetings ago since we heard this, the first reading?
I think the last meeting is when you gave the last meeting was when you gave the long presentation, and the meeting before that was when the council actually adopted.
I'm talking about this MRC group, was it?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that was longer than that.
Okay. So
That
that's
was
probably 3 meetings.
3 or 4, yeah.
Jerry, did you get your invitation?
I got it. Yep, thank you.
So I see Kara logged in 3 times. I assume one of those works.
I guess they got more than one station. though.
Okay.
I guess so.
Do you?
I think
Yeah.
downstairs they
Okay.
well,
It's just, this is really good practice for us.
Yeah, it is.
To have off-site, in the building, but off-site availability for overflow.
No, it was, when I walked in, I saw Kira and I was like, what's going on
Yeah.
down here?
Yeah.
No, it's great.
It's different. Okay, it's 5:30. You guys ready? I'm going to call the meeting to order. Still missing Callie, Whit, and Tammy, so I assume they'll be here soon.
That's me.
Are y'all ready?
Sir.
Okay. I'm going to call the Colleyville City Council work session for May the 5th, 2020 to order at 5:30. Let me call the roll. Councilmember Nakamura. She's not here right at the moment. I'm sure she'll show up, and when she does, we'll add her to the minutes. Mayor Pro Tem Lindemood.
Here.
Councilmember Wheat.
Here.
The mayor is here. Councilmember Dodson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Rigney. I don't see Kelly, so I'm sure she'll show up also. So we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and start. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. We're in a different setting today, having a work session out here in the chambers, so it's different. We are observing social distancing, so when the TV camera pans the audience, you'll see everyone is separated out appropriately. In addition, we have 3 council members, and our city attorney is joining us on the WebEx, so they are visible on the screen, and they hear everything and can talk and vote and see the presentations. We do have a workstation or 2 set up in the lobby. There has been a lot of citizen interest on this topic, so we wanted to make sure they could attend however they were comfortable with, so they're free to come up here into the chamber, or they can be down in the lobby, watch it on WebEx, and we're able to accommodate them even with asking questions, because they can use the workstations we have down there, and we have a city employee down there manning those stations. So when I get to the point of we'll actually allow citizens to comment or ask questions in this work session, so I will ask if anybody's down there when the appropriate time to come. If I forget, let the city manager kick me or something. So there's 3 items. The first one is discussion of the Methodist Retirement Community Project. I apologize to everyone, but it's probably been, I've lost track of the meetings, probably 3 meetings ago or maybe 4 meetings ago. I don't remember when we had the first reading of the ordinance. And we had quite a discussion, and the applicants did not get a chance to make their presentation, so we promised them that we would create that chance and give them a chance to go through the presentation. So the purpose of this work session, item 1, is to allow them to go through the presentation. I know they have a lot of slides. We have a finite amount of time. I will end this meeting at 6:30 no matter what, and I got to get through 3 agenda items. And so I've already spoken, and I think you guys are going to try to get it done in 30 minutes or so. I'd probably be most efficient. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and the council will have an opportunity at the next meeting when we're at the second reading of the ordinance to spend as much time as we want to, and that meeting will not be limited in time. So what I'm going to do, if we can get through the presentation, jot down your questions if you could, because if we ask questions in the interim, I don't know if they'll get through, and I want them to get through. That was what we promised they could do. And I probably will go first after they're finished and see if anybody's downstairs or citizens up here want to ask questions, because we'll have our shot later if we don't get it today. But we probably will have some time for that. So with that, we're going to go into agenda item number 1. Anybody need to make any preliminary comments before they come up? I guess not. And show that Councilmember Nakamura is now present. So you may start, Nick.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Alan Brown, the President and CEO of Methodist Retirement Communities. Today I celebrate my 4th week on the job.
Oh, wow, great.
Native Texan and returning after some years away, most recently being in Mississippi with Methodist Senior Services.
Okay.
I've been in senior housing and healthcare all on the not-for-profit, faith-based side for about 29 years.
Okay.
And I'm grateful to be here tonight to be representing Methodist Retirement Communities. We are a faith-based not-for-profit provider, started in 1962. We have 12 campuses across the state, serving over 2,000 residents and just over 1,000 employees. The city of Colleyville is important to us.
Mayor,
Yes.
I hate to stop you, but we cannot hear him. Can he get up on the
Okay.
mic? Because this is going to be a long presentation. We want to hear it all.
Yeah, pull
We
that-
haven't heard anything.
Okay, just tell them who you are real quick and don't have to.
Alan Brown.
Can you hear him now?
It's the same.
Okay,
Is he
let's
up on the
check.
mic?
Let's check that mic. Maybe we have a mic problem, sorry.
Better to find out now.
Yes, better find it now. So give us a
He
second.
sounds very
Bobby.
distorted.
Yeah, we're checking it.
Yes, sir. Sorry to stop you.
No problem, you got to hear.
Better now than later.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, we got a couple of them.
Check, check.
Okay, I hear that. You hear that,
There
Bobby?
we go.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, we hadn't said anything. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay, go ahead and say
I
Yes, sir.
hear you, yes.
Can we hear? Can we hear now? Good to go? I think it's off.
Tell it, I don't think it came through. I did when he heard it. Say something again.
Hello, hello, check,
No.
check, check.
It's not.
It's not on.
Oh.
It may be a connection problem in
Yeah, 'cause
that.
it was on when he tested it, but you could tell the difference.
I'll have to use the handheld mic.
Yeah. Yeah,
Check, 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 check.
okay, don't go away.
Way better.
Don't go away.
Don't put that
Try
in
it
there.
now. Don't go away.
Oh, why?
Okay, check, check, we good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
There
right,
we go.
got it.
Quickly, I'm
Thank
Alan,
you.
we good?
We're good.
Alan
Yes.
Brown, President and CEO of Methodist Retirement Communities based in the Woodlands, Texas. As I mentioned, we started in 1962. We have 12 campuses across the state, serve over 2,000 residents with 1,000 employees. We welcome the opportunity to speak to you tonight and excited about a potential fit in Colleyville. I believe that the mark of a strong community is the way that it cares and provides for its older adults. And we want to be a partner with Colleyville to be a strong community and provide for your older adults. We've assembled a great team to put together a project that we think you would be proud of and proud to have in your community. And we'd like to present that tonight to you, being a good steward of your time. And we're going to lead off with Mr. Barry Hudson with Dunaway Associates.
Thank you, Alan.
Here,
I hope everybody can hear me.
Councilman Rigney is now present.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, let the minute show Councilmember Rigney is now present. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, let me start out with just sort of the planning information about the project. Ben has done a great job in the previous public hearing explaining it, but I'd like to go over the basics.
Yep.
It's 18.45 acres located on the southeast corner of Cheeksburger Drive and Wayne Drive. It's currently vacant and undeveloped. It is bounded on the east side on the east and south by the city of Bedford. Terra Plantation and Saddlebrook Homeowners Associations are to the north. Covenant Christian Academy is to the west. And we also have Terra Village immediately adjacent to us. The previous approved site plan is for the exact same use. So we're really not changing the use on this property. We're just modifying the site plan, and we're reducing the impact from the previous plan. There are several things on the previous site plan that I'd like to point out. First of all, the commercial area, the retail area on Cheeks-Sparger has been eliminated. This will reduce the traffic on both Cheeks-Sparger and Wayne Drive and allow us to have more of a landscaping buffer. We've eliminated driveways on both Cheeks-Sparger and Wayne Drive, again, to better impact traffic, no cut-through traffic, because we consolidated the building into one unified building. Really key to this are the comparisons between this. I have a chart up here for those that are here on the council, and also the proposed site plan. But again, no commercial, and so fewer units, 61 fewer units. It's a 22% reduction in the number of units, so this results in lower traffic. It's a lower height, which is very important because instead of being 2.5, basically a 3-story unit, the maximum height is 2-story. And a significant part of the project is single-story in the memory care and assisted living facility. We do have more parking, so there's no possibility of parking on the street. So I think that's a very good plus. Plus, we are meeting a 50% open space for the overall site. So there's a lot of green space, a lot of tree preservation that'll be done as a part of this site. Here's the new PD site plan. Several things I'd like to point out. Again, we have the landscape buffer, saving trees along Cheeks-Sparger Road. We have landscaping buffers and setbacks on the south and east side adjacent to the Bedford residents, with improvements to the drainage, which we'll address in detail in just a moment. And also we're doing a 8-foot screening fence adjacent to those residents to further buffer the site. Here's a rendered site plan of the site. The main entry to the site is off of Wayne Drive, sort of in the center of the site. Major difference between this and the previous site plan was the previous site plan was divided into 2 separate buildings. The independent living and the memory care and assisted living were in separate buildings. Mm-hmm. This created a redundancy in kitchens, dining space, common areas. So by combining this allows all the residents to mingle and work together in the overall site. This allows us to have more open space. One of the nice features of this plan is that there are sort of 4 separate courtyard areas in the center of the independent living. The independent living is on the south side of the site. The memory care and assisted living is on the north side with the main entry and common areas in the center next to Wayne Drive. Here's the same site plan that's been put into the context of the overall area of this area. As I mentioned, Covenant Christian Academy is on the west side, and we'll share Wayne Drive. We'll be putting in improvements along Wayne Drive, including sidewalk, right turn lane, and then we'll be contributing to the construction of a roundabout at Bedford Court, which is a part of the previous PD. We had neighborhood information meetings with the neighborhoods to the north in Colleyville, both Saddlebrook and Terra Plantation were invited to neighborhood information meetings. We had a second one, which included all the residents were invited by individual postcard from the residents in Bedford. So we got the addresses from the city of Bedford. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Carl Eade with 3 Architecture to explain the architecture and the massing of the property.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your time, and glad that things are running back to normal, a bit more normal with extra space. This is an illustration of a study we did for the massing. And the massing is just the bulk of the building. There's no materials on it. The building's not going to be all white. But it shows how we have eliminated the retail at the north end of the site. North is the lower left, and the south is the upper right in this image. You can see how we rotated the building. One of the reasons we did that was to minimize the impact along Wayne Drive. It also gives us large open areas on the corners of the site that allow areas of retainage. Here's another view of it looking over the top of Covenant Christian. And it shows the large corners that are open. Those are drainage areas. And we'll talk about more of that later. Here's a view of it. It's 2 stories. It's in a French colonial, French eclectic style. And it's very fitting of Colleyville and a lot of the newer architecture in the area. Here's a view. It's from on the site. There's a perimeter drive, fire lane around, and this is looking at the porte cochere and the main arrival building at the back. With a lot of rich detail, a lot of ins and outs. There's a small section elevation at the very bottom, and the red square on the lower left is blown up so you can see what the materials are. But it's in masonry, stucco, and brick, so brick and stone. That was the main entry. You can see that we have the wall dormers, the arched windows, and a lot of detailing in the building. There it goes. This is the independent living portion of the building. All is broken down to a very residential scale. Okay.
I'm Rocky Berg. I'm a partner with Carl at 3 Architecture. So we're a 37-year-old firm, but have designed and built 30 communities across the country, and 16 in association with Greystone in particular. So very experienced in this particular tailored architecture. Carl spoke about the rotation of the independent living building. Yes, it provides more opportunity to improve the drainage that we'll address in our, later in the presentation. It also improved the vistas from our neighbors to the south and to the east in terms of a dissipating elevation as opposed to a wall elevation as it faces those borders. It also improves the views from the resident windows themselves as well. As Carl pointed out, it provides more open spaces as you look out through those window spaces. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Wendell. I'm with Dunaway Associates. I'll be the project engineer on the site. Just wanted to start out with to talk about the drainage. We started out with the study that we performed for the city staff. It's kind of a substantial report. We went through 3 different reviews with the city staff to make sure that they were okay with all of our drainage designs and make sure that we were meeting the city's criteria for all the different storm events. We studied the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 25, and 50, and 100-year storms. In all events, we actually made the system better, made the storm events by the detention. Three of the main methods that we used, the hydraulic was just HEC HMS for the study of the channels that were going through the site and as well as the existing conditions and proposed conditions. There we go. There it works. This is the drainage basin of the entire site. Our site is as mentioned before, is like 18.5 acres. Overall, there's 187 acres that drain to this site and basically drain through the site. So our site is only roughly 9% of the entire drainage basin. About 100 acres of that is coming directly from Bedford off of Cummings Court and from the subdivision to the east of the property. Those lots drain backwards into our site. With our site only being roughly 9% of the property, we've actually reduced our flows roughly 10% off the peak flows with our proposed drainage and detention. This is just a spreadsheet that we've provided that's in our report that shows the reduction in flows in every different storm event at both the discharge point of Wayne Drive to the north, and also on the other side where it crosses in front of Terra Plantation and reaches the channel that's on the north side. So this is just an overall view of where we're showing detention. We've got detention in all three of the corners. Those will not be wet all the time. They will dry up and only hold water during storm events. The one on the south, on the bottom portion of the page is actually the east side of the west side of the property, and that's picking up water that's draining from Wayne Drive and the development to the west of Covenant Christian. The one in the upper right-hand corner is actually picking up water directly from Bedford off of Cummings Drive, and the other one is going to pick up both our site and what's coming off the properties to the east of us. So this is just a cross-section through our proposed drainage channels. You can see in the blow-up in the bottom, the existing channel is basically just caused by erosion, and that's going, around our site. There's somewhat of an existing channel that goes along the south side and the east side of our property. We're showing that our new detention ponds are significantly larger than what's out there right now, so we have a greater ability to contain more water and slow the water down as it discharges our site. This is just a second cross-section. This is along the east side of the property, and again, you can see that the existing channel really doesn't exist, so there's not a lot of capacity there to carry the water, and we're putting in, wider detention ponds and interconnecting channels in order to carry that water more efficiently. Again, this is just the drainage channels and detention as we're showing it on our site. And this is some of the existing photos of current conditions out there. The left-hand corner is the existing pipe that runs on our property that's picking up the flows from the inlet on Woodmont Court just to the west of us. So that inlet actually discharges between those two houses and into this pipe that's shown. And then that all drains to the culverts that are underneath Bedford Court and run underneath the Terra Village development. And again, this is just some more photos. This is taken from Bedford Court looking down into our site. The drainage, or the inlet that's on the north side of Bedford Court, the head wall right there at Bedford Court, and it's just the back of the buildings of Terra Village. And then this is
Sorry about that.
That's always fun. This is looking at the southeast corner of the property off of Cummings Drive, and how that there's really no, there's just no clean way to carry that water. The water's just coming straight off of Cummings Drive from Bedford directly into the site and just eroding it away. So, in conclusion for the drainage, basically we're creating larger channels to carry the peak flows away from the existing homes. We're more storage by adding detention. The storage and additional detention should reduce the floods adjacent to us and as well for our site. After this development, it's going to be better than existing. At the end of the day, it's going to be better than existing, because right now you see that it's just erosion is the only reason why there's water being carried through there in the first place. There's no defined way to carry the water. The water's just getting through that site any way that it possibly can. And so once the development occurs, you've got an interested party that's going to have perpetual maintenance of the drainage. So instead of having images of this where you just have people going out there and put riprap in, and you've got erosion and people having to put their own protection on the backside of their property to stop erosion, you've got a developer that's going to contain that water and maintain that detention in perpetuity. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Barry.
Thank you, Jeremy. Just real quick, I'd like to go forward. There's several benefits of this revised site plan to the overall development of the neighborhood. Again, improved drainage. That's critical because I think that's what we kept hearing from the Bedford folks. Decreased traffic. I know there's concern about traffic, so fewer units and more on-site parking. We'll have an improved streetscape along Cheeksburger and Wayne Drive, so improvements to the perimeter of what it looks like. Also improved neighborhood involvement because we've talked to Covenant Christian Academy about the seniors working with the students and some programs that MRC has at other facilities. So I think there's some real chances for improvement there. Also, we have employment. We have a number of full-time employees that are going to be at the site. We have senior employees in this area.
I think you lost the mic. Did y'all hear him?
No, I think it went out. It went out.
It popped. There's a
No, we
conne-
cannot.
There's a connection issue in that mic.
Yeah, we have these other ones. We're not-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Wasn't you.
Unless, yeah, we got a couple up here we can try. They're the same, plug. Okay.
Testing, one,
Yep,
okay,
we got
all
it.
right, okay. But the most critical thing is that this is going to provide state-of-the-art senior housing for the residents of Colleyville. People that want to move to a senior living facility and stay here in the community. That's what this is being designed for. We have an increasing amount of seniors, over 55, over 65, over 75. And 5% of those in the primary market area here right in Colleyville. Countywide, it's even more. I mean, there are also other, facilities outside of Colleyville, but nothing, there's only one facility in Colleyville right now for senior living, and it's very limited. Nothing of this quality that has all the amenities that we're talking about and all the opportunities for this. So I hope you read some of the details in these slides. We've been working on this for a year and a half now. So we had our neighborhood meetings back last June and July of 2019. We made 3 presentations to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The city staff has recommended approval. The Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval. And now it's before you as city council, and we'd love to address any concerns that you have. Just real briefly, I'd like to ask for Bud to come up here and show you a few of the other facilities that have been done by MRC.
Thank you. Bud Green, I'm with Greystone. We've met before. Since then, there's been a lot of change, right? And for me, the barber shops are closed down, so I need a haircut. I'm just doing the best I can. However, I have refused to put on a pair of socks until all this is over, so I'm dressed appropriately, but I don't have a pair of socks on, as an interesting note. I'll just be very brief. Really what we wanted to do here was to just demonstrate some images of projects that have been completed, that Greystone has been involved with as a development consultant, and working with MRC and quite frankly some other clients. But the reason that we want to show you this is just to show you the quality of the projects that we typically do with our clients, and it's all client driven, and it's all driven by what the market is, what the market will support, what the architecture should be in the environment, et cetera, et cetera. But just to quickly kind of go through some of these. That first one was a community down in Bryan that's an MRC property. This is one that a couple of other clients of ours, different markets, Kansas City, Indiana, Dallas, Texas, et cetera. But you can see each one of them is designed differently, appropriate for that market and for that location. And that's the key to being successful on a project like this. So I'll quickly go through here again, various projects around the country, Iowa, Kentucky, Dallas, et cetera. I'm looking for, the top right one is a project that MRC has down in Corpus. So there's one of their projects specifically. And again, several images of different styles of architects, different or architecture, different height, different densities, et cetera. So interiors, very important from a marketing and from a resident standpoint is first impressions. So you can see the quality and the fenestration of the interiors is always top of notch. Again, appropriate for the particular market that the project would be in. Various designs of dining venues. These are all representative, except I think the two bottom ones are in the assisted living level of care. The two tops are in the independent living level of care. Again, dining venues. These communities many times will have a bistro with maybe a bar, depending on the location, the client's desires, the ability to get liquor license, et cetera. Again, it's really driven by what the market will support and what the market wants to be successful. Again, just various images of the dining opportunities. That bottom left one is independent living dining area of that project MRC has in Bryan, Texas. So these communities all have wellness fitness programs that are highly developed, managed by people that are in that business for the seniors that want to, participate in those services from a health and wellness standpoint. They'll have levels of multi-purpose, performing arts or chapels, depending on the client's desires and what they're wanting to provide from a service standpoint. And, activity spaces, arts, card rooms, billiard rooms, media rooms, et cetera. And then the outdoor spaces are always a very important component, and you'll see in these images, these are, all well done. We want to make sure people can use them, even in environments that are very hot. We make sure that we design areas that people can actually access and use. That would be the case here on this project in Colleyville, because there is a proposal or a plan to put a pool in there. There'll be some other structures for the various people. So right on time at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's it. Anybody else has anything? I will conclude. Barry? All right. Thank you all for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Hit it right on the nail right on the head. So I'm gonna first, since I said I was gonna allow citizens to ask questions on this one, are there any citizens here in the chamber that would like to ask questions? And if not, Kara, can you hear me? Are there any citizens downstairs?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay, then I'm gonna open it up to the council then for a little bit. And so as you talk through that, it's off of beautiful facilities that you construct, different places. Let me just kind of bulletize my thoughts, and then I'll let others comment. You were talking about the advantages. One is, and the changes, went over the changes. So I have a lot of detailed questions, but just let me highlight this. So this is a nonprofit. That means there's no ad valorem tax to the city. That wasn't commented on. So that's not a positive to the city. 2, drainage, you did talk about. I'm sure we will talk about that at great, more length. I want to understand how you're accomplishing some of the things that you've accomplished, but compared to where it is now. And I did look at the data, so I have some questions about that. Neighbors, there's been a lot of neighbors speaking before. You said you did meet with neighbors. I'm kind of interested in how that went, how you did it, what the feedback was. And another thing, the phasing of it and what's included, and you have some of that information in your packet presentation, but you didn't comment on it. Have some questions about that. And then the financial model. So we talked about that at some length in the previous meeting. And so I think those are the, at least in my list, those are the things that I will want us to talk about as we go through this. Any others that, I'm trying to give you guys a heads up on where we're going with questions. Any other
Richard,
comments?
one of my concerns was in the roundabout that was
Yes.
proposed to be put there is nowhere here, and I'm concerned because I go that way all the time, and I know what a nightmare it is to get off that street onto
Yeah.
Cheeksburger.
Yeah.
That's one of my concerns, and you named the rest of mine.
Yeah, okay. So roundabout, that's the new one, correct?
Mhm.
Any others anyone has?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
Go ahead, George.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, George, go ahead. Chuck was talking to, but go ahead, George, and Chuck.
Oh, I'm sorry, whoever
No,
was
go ahead,
going, go, and then I'll talk.
Go ahead.
I had a couple of questions around the volunteer affiliation with the Texas Annual Conference of United Methodist Church. What does that mean? What do you do with the Methodist Church? Kind of give us some ideas and understanding around that. When we met before, we also talked about you had some percentage of the space set aside for folks in a charity situation. Kind of like to understand a little bit more about that. And then my third piece is around the entry fees and the monthly fees. How does that work? How does it break out for each of the different spaces in the facility?
Yeah, okay, super. And some of those things, when I said financial model, includes that. George?
Yes, I have a number of questions, and I won't get into them here, but the prior, I don't think we should set aside the prior zoning until we totally understand everything that's changed. And there's a myriad of changes. Number one, you know, our covenants say that there's supposed to be a solid solid screen, solid cement or concrete, whatever,
Masonry.
wall around the development. It's far too close to residential. The prior, the approved version is 200 feet from any residential building, and this at some points is as close as 60 feet, which to me is basically on top of them. I have major concerns, as you do, Mayor, about the holding ponds. They are so tiny relative to what was available before. I'm concerned about the payments for the roundabout. Several of the buildings that you show don't have stone features around them. A number of these other buildings appear to, but you've got a number that appear to be just wood buildings or wood, what do you have, covered parkways. Or I guess you don't have that many covered parkways. In fact, I'm looking at the diagrams here. Looks like they're mostly open. So I'm very concerned about the 100-year surface area that covers this lot that's shown up on one of your diagrams. And you're clearly going to put your buildings right where that 100-year surface area issue is. I'm extremely concerned about the funding and the revenue. And I guess that's my start.
Okay. I guess Bobby or Callie, y'all have any additions?
I'd just like to echo what George is saying. You know, with so many changes, I think this thing we need to back it up and go through the whole process again. I don't think it's fair to just make these changes and expect us to jump back on it. I think that it needs to go through the full process. I too am concerned about the smaller drainage areas now. To me, it doesn't seem like the erosion is going to be withheld so well outside of the site now that that is smaller tanks or whatever you want to call them, ponds. I've got a concern with that, really and truly, especially with the erosion that we have on Cummings already. As you can see outside of the road, it's just eroding those banks. And I don't know, I'd just like to see some hydraulics, some studies done on that, on what the effect's going to be for upstream. Because as you can tell, like I say, not only Cummings, but around on Bedford Trail, all that up through there has got some erosion problems. And, I think we're kind of, because we've allowed this to stay off the radar for a little while, and then all these changes happen, I really would like to see us dive back into this again. I know this is a quick workshop tonight, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this.
Okay,
I agree with you, Bobby. I feel like there's too many unknowns right now, and there's so much information to digest. I can feel comfortable making a decision. Y'all all touched on points that I agree with. The loss of tax revenue for the city is an issue for me, and I'd like to see what the approved plan was, and see if we compare the two, and look at all the changes. I agree with you. I think we need more time.
okay. Okay, so with that, I wanted to just get a high-level overview so you guys could hear all the topics that are going to be brought up clearly today. We won't have time for all that. At the next meeting, we will take time, whatever it takes, maybe a long meeting.
Mayor, I
yes.
did have one more
Okay.
concern, especially in light of the COVID-19.
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about the previous design of the facility was there were separate buildings, so there was the ability to close that building off if, as we've seen, one of the nearby nursing homes has 20 cases and it's spreading rapidly. With this facility, everything's tied together, so I'm a little concerned on how they will manage in those type of situations where
Okay.
there could be a mass outbreak of something.
Yeah, okay, that's
So,
a rational
apologize
thought
for adding
right
an
there.
extra
No,
one,
no,
but-
no, that's actually a good thought. Yes, sir.
Barry Hudson, just an initial comment to reassure the council.
Mm-hmm.
We are going through the full process.
Yes.
This isn't just being sprung on the council at
Yeah.
this point. We have gone through numerous meetings with the city staff,
Mm-hmm.
and going through all the current processes that you would go from if this was
Yeah.
zoned agriculture, if you will.
Yeah.
Because, so we've gone through the full zoning process, but what I'm trying to assure you is that we're trying to improve on the previous PUD.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the same use, but we have been through the process, and that's part of it. And so,
Yeah.
and so our challenge, this is really the first time we've had an opportunity to present to council. So we're trying to hit the high points,
Yeah.
trying to keep it to 20 or 30 minutes. We can,
Yeah.
we can talk as much as you want about drainage, and we'll address that in the future, but
Yeah.
I think that Alan wants to address some of the issues as far as.
Yeah, and that's why I want to do this overview. There's a lot that can be talked about. I agree, we are going through the full I mean, this is a zoning case. So you've been through P and Z. It's like the other zoning didn't exist because you're asking for new zoning. But what you're hearing the council saying, they understood what was in the previous one. So you're saying, you guys will want to present why this is better. We're going to really drill into why this is better.
Certainly,
And we may have different opinions. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll-
yeah,
we'll see.
this development is
Yeah.
contributing $1 million towards that roundabout, and
Yeah.
the engineering is already done. But let me turn
Yeah,
it back over.
but the other one did that too, so that's a neutral. That's a no, that's a
neutral,
no,
yeah.
that's a no
But let me
game.
assure you, we are doing the roundabout. Yeah.
But I'll say this one more time.
Contributing to it.
You guys are nonprofit. There is no ad valorem tax. You didn't mention that. That's a huge negative, okay? But I understand it. Good thing for people, but also that's part of the deal.
Certainly.
Okay.
Let me just briefly address the not-for-profit part. I mean, that's the core of who we are.
Yeah.
We're a faith-based organization. We've been a not-for-profit since 1962. And why is it important that we're not-for-profit? Everything that we generate goes back into caring for people. We have a charity component on this campus. The charity component will be 4% or greater. And just to put that in perspective, it's not uncommon, or it can happen easily. Someone that saves for retirement, does well, has things in place. There's a disaster in the economy. You move in when you're 80, and 100 years old, you're still there. And you can easily outlive your resources, and we never ask people to leave. We have that charity component that does that. And then also, we take care of our employees. We offer health insurance. We offer retirement, which is unheard of in our industry and what we do. We reinvest our dollars back in people. If we need a particular piece of equipment to take care of somebody, we get it. All of our folks are well taken care of. We do all kinds of culture training. We're heavily in innovation. It's not just about warehousing people, people with memory support. Unfortunately, it's common in what we do for people to take an existing hallway and put doors up and lock people in and say, we've got a memory care unit. That's not what we do. It's about people coming to our campus to continue to live, to continue to be engaged. And as a not-for-profit, it allows us to reinvest back in the care of those that we take care of, reinvest back in our employees, be a solid contributing citizen to the community, take care of people through benevolent care and meet their needs. And that's what we do. And I hope you see the benefits of how we contribute. Yes, you won't have that property tax, but there's many more positive contributions that not-for-profits make in the community. We are affiliated with the Methodist Conference. We'll be affiliated with the Northern Conference here. What that means to us, we're a faith-based organization. We were founded by the Methodist Conference. They have since, we have an affiliation agreement where we operate independently, but they provide support. We have annual offerings in Methodist churches across the state for our benevolent fund. We have the support of local churches. We build those relationships, and we're not Methodist. All of our residents are not Methodist by a long shot. Our Methodists, you don't have to be Methodist to live there. Our campuses are a reflection of the community and where we are. So it looks just like any community. We're connected to all churches, if there's churches affiliations, but that's who we are as a not-for-profit. Briefly about the COVID, you see the disasters on the news and organizations that weren't prepared and didn't act. While we are in one building here, we locked all of our campuses down. We're in week 8 of lockdown from all visitors. We've got independent living, memory care, assisted living, and skilled nursing across the state.
Could I ask a question about that? That's
Sure.
me.
Go ahead.
You know, as I listened to all that and heard people that work in nursing home, you know, the MDs and whatnot, my takeaway was you can lock down, didn't have visitors, that's the right thing to do, but the model that's typically used in facilities like this or nursing homes or whatever is a shared employee model where the therapists and whatnot go from facility to facility. And my own experience with my family, I know that to be true. And that was identified as one of the biggest issues with the facilities where you have elderly people captured there.
Right, and we have limited that to the extent that we can, to the extent there's only so many healthcare professionals to go around, but we sat down with employees that were working at multiple facilities and basically asked them to choose. And those that were working 2 jobs, we didn't want to have a negative impact on them, so we offered them more hours to offset any potential. And again, that's being a not-for-profit, faith-based, that we reinvest back in employees to keep our residents safe. Also, a lot of the ones you see on the news are semi-private rooms. All of our rooms are private. Even though we're in one building, you have isolated areas. Memory support is completely separate from independent living. Independent living is separate from assisted living, so there are barriers within the building to prevent that. Statewide, in 12 campuses, so far in 8 weeks, we've had 2 residents that turned up positive. It was isolated immediately. We're already past the 14-day window, and we had 1 employee that's tested positive, and none of those are on the same campus. But they were isolated. The protocols were in place. We made significant investments in personal protective gear to the extent that we could get it from all over the world. We got it in. So we're situated on campuses, and we're prepared. We've got corporate nurses that were providing support, doing all the training. So our teams were engaged and ready to go. They had what they needed. And if you want to go to our website, mrcaff.org, there's a COVID-19 update, and it tells you everything we've done. It tells you all of our cases. We're very transparent about that. We're not trying to hide anything. And by the grace of God, we've had good experience right now. So that's who we are and what we do.
Can you repeat that website again?
mrcaff.org. And please feel free to visit that website. You can see a glimpse of our campuses, our history, who we are, what we do. Again, that explains the not-for-profit difference in what we do and why that would be a benefit to you.
So I want to, were you at the last meeting? Were you here at the last meeting?
No, sir.
Okay. So a lot of discussion went on relative to some of the stuff you have just been talking to. Will you be at the next meeting or not?
I will be.
Okay, good. What I wanted to say.
I've been here 4 weeks. I hope I'm still employed at that point, but I'm planning on being
Where
here.
were you before then?
I was with Methodist Retirement Communities in Tupelo, Mississippi, which we had 12 campuses there and served the whole state.
So we're going to run out of time, so we'll have to continue this later. However, what I wanted to point out, what you were talking about, you were emphasizing the nonprofit nature of this, you were, and some of the things that you view as values.
Right.
We will want to talk about all those, because I'm going to be very straight with you. You rattle those things off as CEO, as you should, but when you get right down into analyzing some of it, I'm having a difficult time personally, and I asked about this and talked about this at the last meeting, really understanding what the difference in the nonprofit and profit is. So we will discuss that. I believe there is profit in here for somebody. And the other question that came up, so I'll just highlight it for you, is, and Chuck mentioned, wanted to understand the affiliation. So it could be, and it could appear, okay, I'm just saying the appearance could be there, that way you're affiliated in name only in order to get that nonprofit designation. Now, what does that really mean? What does it really do? Who does it do it for, other than the people involved who is going to make money on it? The other thing we talked a good bit about is, I said financial model, and Chuck asked, added to that. And so the understanding of how does a model work for the actual people that go there financially, because you talk about this 4% and you talk about taking care of people the rest of their lives. I understand that. However, this is a model, if my understanding is correct, and if I remember right, is a model where people put in X amount of money up front. They're paying up front quite a bit of money. And I have a little concern what happens to that money and how they, how they recover if they leave, or if they're stuck there just because of the financial. So, and I don't mean to be aggressive here. I just
No,
want
we'll
you
be
to
happy to-
know
we'll be happy to
these are the
explain
kind of
all
questions
that.
you're going to hear when you come back.
And please do your research online. All of our 990s are
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a not-for-profit,
Yeah.
and we'll be happy to explain all that to you.
Okay.
And again, I hope you see the values of not-for-profits in your community, because it makes a difference. And I'm not here to bash for-profits, but we would be here for the long haul. We don't develop, sell, and get out of town and take the profits. We have a volunteer board of directors, and again, all of our financials, you can look up our 990s online. All that's public record. And we're transparent.
Great. Well, you can educate us, and we're happy to do that. We'll take all the time necessary to do that. So, I think we're going to have to move to the next item. Thank you so much for coming. I apologize it took so long to get back to this point. We do expect, we're not taking it's tabled tonight. We're not going to take it up tonight because I don't like to have work sessions and immediately take action, because our citizens need to have an opportunity to digest this and have the opportunity to come back at the public hearing. So it'll be at the second meeting in May that I expect that we will take the second reading and public hearing, and we'll take action of some kind, either prove it, disprove it, or table it. So that's what will happen at the next meeting.
Are we sending notices again?
Pardon me?
Are we sending new notices? Okay.
Yes, we will do that, yeah.
Let the neighbors know, yes.
Very good. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a lot of manpower here and people power. I appreciate it. So thanks very much. Thank you. Okay, and that brings us to agenda item number 2 in the work session. And I wanted to talk a little bit about dates for city council parties workshop. So we had set a policy that still is on the books, that within 30 days after the election date, we would have this. Of course, we don't have an election date because there was no opponent, but that's, to me, it really is still there. So I would like to, if at all possible, get this done in June. And of course, that assumes that our COVID stuff will roll off to the point where we're all comfortable, because I really do want that meeting where we're all together like we have been before, because we have so much dialogue going on. So there's the concept. By the way, my schedule's completely free in June. So I don't know if anybody has plans yet, betting on the come, but be thinking about that. Anybody have a problem with everything I just said, trying to do that? Okay.
Put it on here.
Rich.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Richard?
Yes, George.
Richard, if I could, you and I talked earlier about an activity I have coming up would it be possible to move it to July so that it'd have a couple more weeks for recovery?
Yeah, George, yeah, in your case, we can certainly do that if timing becomes an issue, sure.
Okay,
So we may be triggering on you then, when you're available.
I
But that's
appreciate
okay.
that.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I'll be gone the week of the 4th and the 11th, if we
Okay.
do it in July, just to
July.
let you know.
Of July, Bobby, did you say?
Yes, sir, if we do it in July, I'm open for I won't be here the weekends of
Okay.
4th or the 11th. Now, anytime during the week, I pretty much can make, so
Okay,
even if it's June, July, August, or whatever, you just need to
Okay.
let me know on those. The weekends are gonna be really tough for me.
okay, great.
We can have
Assuming
that weekend.
somebody's taking notes on what we say here, okay. Callie, anyone else have any things like Bobby says, hey, I'm out these particular times that we need to try to avoid?
Well, I don't necessarily have particular times, but if we're gonna do it during the week, we could do it a Monday or a Friday.
Okay.
The middle of the week is usually difficult.
Okay,
with
so,
work
okay, during the week, Monday or Friday's better, okay.
One just suggestion or thought, in the past when the council has tried to schedule additional meeting nights during the summer, I think we had shifted to a strategy of doing it the same week as a council meeting so that you all had a week off if you had personal travels. Would you like us to continue with that strategy or try to do it in an off week from the council?
I'm fine with it. I noticed that we have a council meeting on the 21st of July, so we could do it on the 20th, if that works for Chuck and everybody else.
Works
Okay.
for me.
Okay,
This is gonna
so
be-
far, that's the, Callie, did you say something? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Is this gonna be during the day or in the evening or what?
During the day it was.
Day or evening?
Day.
Oh, doesn't matter to me, of course, it may matter to y'all.
20th is not a good day for me, but I could do the next following day.
Hey, Callie, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
At all.
Uh-oh, you went silent, Callie.
Yeah, I don't hear you now. We did hear you, but we had a hard time understanding you previously. We can chat with you after this to get what you said and factor that in. So we're kind of making a list of criteria right now. Okay.
July 20th works perfect for me.
Okay, good. All right, with that, then the last agenda item is our typical, anything on the regular agenda items, and so just the same thing that we've been doing. Those items that have been tabled, I would like to leave them tabled tonight, and we'll pick them up probably the next meeting, as I was telling those guys. And also at the announcements, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna, in lieu of the normal announcements we do, I'm gonna do another summary of where we're at with COVID situation. It will not be as long, I promise. This will be much, much shorter.
Sure.
Okay. Any other comments or things you need to talk about in the work session?
Nope.
Okay, with that, then I'm going to, hang on, get my paperwork straight. I'm gonna close the work session at 6:27, and we will be moving into executive session in accordance with the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D, Section 551.071 Legal, Section 551.072 Real Estate, and Section 551.087 Economic Development. And we're now in executive session. Okay.
Hey, Mark. Mark?